Have you ever wondered how New York City, the architectural marvel it is today, came into being? Our tale begins in the 17th century, a time when the city we now know as the Big Apple was but a budding settlement. The Dutch were the first to make their mark, establishing the trading post of New Amsterdam. They brought with them their architectural influences, giving rise to simple, practical structures that mirrored their homeland's style. But the Dutch era was short-lived, and by the late 17th century, the English had taken control, renaming the city New York. The English influence introduced an architectural shift, with the cityscape now echoing British aesthetics. However, the monumental moment that truly shaped New York City's architectural landscape was the introduction of the grid system in 1811. This utilitarian design, known as the Commissioner's Plan, carved the city into neat rectangles. It was a visionary move, one that laid the groundwork for future development and allowed for the city's rapid expansion. In this grid, the early architectural styles began to flourish. Take the Federal style, for example, a refined adaptation of British architecture that dominated the late 18th to early 19th centuries. This style was characterized by its symmetry, multi-pane windows and classical details, a nod to the ancient Roman Republic. Then there was a shift towards the Greek Revival style. This style, popular in the mid-19th century, was characterized by its large columns, pediments, and a fascination with antiquity. These buildings, reminiscent of ancient Greek temples, were a statement of the city's growing affluence and cultural aspirations. As the city expanded, so did its architectural prowess, setting the stage for the iconic skyline we see today. This was just the beginning. The birth of the Big Apple was a confluence of different cultures and styles, paving the way for the architectural wonders that were yet to come. Stay tuned for our next scene where we delve into the rise of the skyscraper and how it forever changed New York City's silhouette. With the dawn of the 20th century, New York City began to reach for the sky. But how did this transformation occur? The answer lies in two pivotal inventions that revolutionized the world of architecture: the elevator and steel frame construction. Let's start with the elevator. Prior to its invention, buildings rarely exceeded 6 stories, simply because climbing stairs to any greater height was impractical. But in the mid-19th century, Elisha Otis introduced the safety elevator, a device that could lift people hundreds of feet in the air without the fear of a catastrophic fall. The elevator, in essence, made vertical travel safe and convenient, paving the way for buildings to grow taller and taller. Now let's talk about steel. Before the 20th century, most buildings were supported by thick, load-bearing walls, which limited how high they could go. But then came the development of steel frame construction. This ingenious method involved erecting a skeleton of steel, which could bear the weight of the building, allowing for much greater heights. With this innovation, the sky was literally the limit. These two advancements led to the rise of the skyscraper, a term coined in the late 19th century to describe these towering new structures. Among the first of these was the iconic Flatiron Building, completed in 1902. With its distinct triangular shape, this 22-story building was a marvel of its time and a symbol of the new era. Following the Flatiron came the magnificent Woolworth Building. Completed in 1913, this 60-story Gothic masterpiece was dubbed the Cathedral of Commerce, and held the title of the world's tallest building for nearly 2 decades. Indeed, the rise of the skyscraper forever changed the landscape of New York City. These towering structures not only changed the city's skyline but also its very identity. From a city of low-rise buildings and narrow streets, New York transformed into a city reaching for the heavens, a metropolis defined by its towering skyscrapers. The 20th century was a period of rapid change and innovation. How did these changes reflect in New York's architecture? In the early days of the century, New York was a city in flux, grappling with the new realities of a rapidly industrializing world. The modernist movement, which championed the marriage of form and function, found a fitting canvas in this bustling metropolis. Modernism in architecture was a response to these changes. It was a radical departure from traditional design principles, valuing function over form and simplicity over ornate decoration. This philosophy was embodied in iconic New York structures such as the United Nations headquarters and the Seagram Building. The United Nations headquarters, completed in 1952, serves as a beacon of international diplomacy. Its design, led by Le Corbusier and a team of international architects, is a testament to the modernist ethos. The building's sleek, rectilinear form is a symbol of the rational, forward-thinking ideals that the United Nations champions. Similarly, the Seagram Building, completed in 1958, is a masterpiece of the modernist movement. Designed by Mies van der Rohe, the structure's bronze exterior and glass curtain walls exemplify the movement's emphasis on materials and structural honesty. Van der Rohe's minimalist approach and careful attention to detail are evident in every aspect of the building, from its precise alignment with the street grid to its elegantly proportioned lobby. The influence of these architects and the modernist movement can still be seen in the city today. From the towering skyscrapers of Manhattan to the simpler residential buildings in the outer boroughs, the principles of modernism, clean lines, functional design, and a lack of unnecessary ornamentation have left an indelible mark on New York's architectural landscape. In the end, modernism was more than just a style or a movement. It was a reflection of a city and a society in the throes of profound change. And nowhere was this change more apparent than in the skyline of New York City. Modernism, with its clean lines and functional design, left an indelible mark on the city. As we moved into the late 20th and early 21st centuries, how did New York's architecture continue to evolve? The shift from modernism to postmodernism marked a significant change in the architectural landscape of New York. If modernism was about simplicity and functionality, postmodernism was about complexity and contradiction. It was an era where architects dared to break the rules, experiment with unconventional forms, and add a dash of whimsy to their designs. One of the most notable examples of postmodernist architecture in New York is the AT&T Building, now known as the Sony Building. Designed by Philip Johnson and John Burgee, this structure with its Chippendale-inspired broken pediment top became a symbol of the postmodernist movement. It was a daring departure from the glass and steel boxes of the modernist era, signaling a return to ornamentation and historical references in architecture. But the architectural evolution of New York didn't stop at postmodernism. The city also saw the rise of deconstructivism, a movement characterized by fragmentation, non-rectilinear shapes, and the manipulation of a structure's surface. A prime example of deconstructivist architecture in New York is the Guggenheim Museum, designed by Frank Gehry. Its swirling organic form seems to defy gravity, offering a stark contrast to the rigid geometries of traditional architecture. In the contemporary era, technology and sustainability have become significant influencers of New York's architecture. Today's architects are leveraging advanced technologies to create buildings that are not only aesthetically pleasing but also energy efficient and environmentally friendly. High-performance glass, green roofs, and renewable energy systems are just a few examples of how New York's architecture has adapted to meet the demands of the 21st century. So, from the postmodernist whimsy of the AT&T Building to the deconstructivist audacity of the Guggenheim Museum and the tech-driven sustainability of contemporary designs, New York's architecture has indeed come a long way. New York's architecture, like the city itself, continues to evolve, reflecting the changing times. As we look back on the history of New York's architecture, what strikes us the most? From its humble beginnings, New York's architecture has been an evolving tapestry of style, innovation, and ambition. Each era, each movement, has left its mark on the cityscape, creating a rich, diverse architectural landscape that is as vibrant and dynamic as the city itself. In the early days, New York was a city of brownstones and townhouses, a testament to its colonial roots. These buildings, with their intricate details and classic designs, laid the foundation for what was to come. The rise of the skyscraper in the late 19th and early 20th centuries marked a new era in New York architecture. These towering structures with their steel frames and glass facades transformed the city's skyline and cemented its status as a global architectural powerhouse. The modernist movement, with its emphasis on functionality and simplicity, brought a new aesthetic to New York. Buildings became sleeker, cleaner, more streamlined. This shift away from ornamentation and towards minimalism marked a significant turning point in the city's architectural history. Postmodernism and beyond brought a return to ornamentation, but with a twist. Architects began to play with form and function, creating buildings that were as much works of art as they were functional spaces. This period saw the creation of some of New York's most iconic structures, including the Guggenheim Museum and the Seagram Building. Today, New York's architecture continues to evolve, reflecting the city's ability to adapt and grow. New styles and innovations are constantly emerging, adding to the city's architectural diversity and reinforcing its influence on global architecture. The architecture of New York City is not just about buildings, it's about the people who live and work in them, the communities they form, and the stories they tell. It's about the city's ability to reinvent itself, to push boundaries, to continually strive for greatness. The architecture of New York City is a testament to human ingenuity, a chronicle of our past, and a beacon for our future.